Well, Thomas Laehn, Libertarian candidate for US Senate, is joining me now. Thomas, thanks for being with us today.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Well, first, want to start off by talking about your campaign. You are running for an open U.S. Senate seat in Iowa. Pretty rare one of these seats opens up. Tell me a little bit about what made you want to run for Senate.
Sure. So I am currently the county attorney in Greene County, Iowa. I'm approaching the end of my second term. In 2018, I was elected county attorney, becoming the first libertarian to hold an elective partisan office in the state of Iowa. And when I was elected, I swore an oath to defend the Constitution, as does every elected official in the country. And I believe now at this time, the best way I can fulfill that oath, the best way I can defend the Constitution and ensure that my children grow up in a republic and in a system of government with the rule of law and a constitutional government is by running for the United States Senate.
And you're in a race up against two other candidates who have a lot of statewide name recognition, as you know, well as a lot of money in their campaigns. What makes you feel like you are the best fit to go up against them, and what sets you apart in this race?
Yeah, their money is actually their greatest weakness, their greatest vulnerability. Washington, D.C. based super PACs are literally spending tens of millions of dollars in an effort to get either Ashley Hinson or Josh Turek elected. The Senate Republican Leadership Fund PAC, a Washington, D.C. based super PAC, has pledged $29 million for Ashley Hinson's campaign. It was recently released. There was a news release that Bruce Rastetter, the multimillionaire behind the carbon dioxide capture pipeline system that will literally take property from Iowa landowners against their will through the use of eminent domain, that Bruce Rastetter is bankrolling her campaign. And it's no different for Josh Turek. You know, there are interest groups, political action committees in Washington, D.C., one aligned with Chuck Schumer, the New York Democrat senator, that are spending tens of millions of dollars for his campaign. And Iowans need to ask themselves, if either Ashley or Josh is elected, whom will they serve? It won't be the people of Iowa. It will be the mega donors, the interest groups, the political action committees that are funding their campaigns. There is not one political action committee or interest group spending money on behalf of my candidacy. Every penny that's been spent in support of my campaign has been contributed by individual donors. And more than that, whereas Josh and Ashley, a majority of their donors live outside the state of Iowa, a majority of my donors are Iowans. So when I'm elected, I will owe my office and my allegiance to the people of Iowa, not to interest groups or political action committees or out-of-state billionaires, which would be true for Ashley and Josh. You know, running for Congress or being a member of Congress today is just a constant re-election process. As soon as they're elected and they're in Washington, D.C., all they're doing is campaigning for re-election. As you know, when we turn on C-SPAN and we see members of the House or the Senate speaking on TV, the chambers are empty. They're not there. They're taking turns talking to the camera while all of their colleagues are off meeting with donors and lobbyists and interest groups and raising money for their next campaign. Now, I'm offering the people of Iowa something totally different, a truly independent candidate who's not beholden to any interest group or donor or even to any political party. My only loyalty will be to the Constitution and to the people of this state.
And with that, I want to jump into a handful of issues that you have listed on your campaign site. You know, the first one being restoring political power to the people. Tell me a little bit more about that. Why do you feel that's important to have it be, you know, the first issue listed on your campaign site? And what does that effort look like for you if you are elected?
That's a great question. So it's the first issue on my campaign website because it's the first premise of our system of government, that we believe the people ultimately rule, what's called popular sovereignty, that government only holds power in trust from the people. And what has happened is that our political system has been commandeered by two political parties that are equally corrupt and dysfunctional, and by the wealthy billionaires and political interest groups, political action committees that have really harnessed the legislative process and are using it to advance their ends, their goals at the expense of the people. And a great example of this, there's no better example of this than this carbon dioxide pipeline that is being proposed across our state. It starts with a federal tax credit, sections 45Q and 45Z of the IRS tax code that will pay companies $85 per metric ton of carbon dioxide they capture. Carbon dioxide that would otherwise be released into the atmosphere. If we can capture that and sequester it, bury it underground, the federal government will pay that company $85 per metric ton. In order to secure these tax credits, a man named Bruce Rastetter, who's a Republican mega donor, has given tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to Republican candidates. He has proposed the creation of this pipeline across our state that would capture carbon dioxide from our state's ethanol plants, liquefy it under immense pressure, and pipe it across our state. We're not exactly sure anymore where it will go, but it was originally proposed to go to North Dakota. The problem of this is twofold. One, the environmentalist groups are against the project because it will actually do more harm than good building the pipeline. It will do more damage to the environment building the pipeline than it will do good capturing this carbon dioxide. So the project is a totally futile project. So what does it do? All it does is make Bruce Rastetter and his investors potentially billionaires. By my math, he stands to make $30 billion in federal tax credits, which he will then, of course, give a share to the legislators who are funding this whole scheme so they can run for re-election. But even more problematic than that total waste of taxpayer dollars is that to build this pipeline, Summit Carbon Solutions, his company, will need the power of eminent domain, the power to take people's property along the proposed route of this pipeline, take their property against their will, and use it to construct the pipeline. As you may know, I drafted a bill a couple of years ago at the request of Republican state legislators. I requested a bill that would have prohibited the use of eminent domain for the construction of this pipeline. They could still build the pipeline, you just couldn't take people's land against their will. You'd have to buy it at market price. This bill passed the Senate, passed the House. It went to the governor's desk. We know that 78% of Iowans are opposed to the use of eminent domain for the construction of this pipeline. So the overwhelming majority of Iowans supported my bill. And yet Governor Reynolds vetoed it. And why did she veto it? Well, Bruce Rastetter is one of her primary campaign contributors. So we see how an interest group, an individual, a very wealthy individual Republican donor, was able to frustrate the will of the people. We also know, as I mentioned earlier in the interview, that Bruce Rastetter is now raising money for Ashley Hinson, my Republican opponent. This whole pipeline project could be killed if we would eliminate the tax credits that are funding the whole boondoggle. And that's one of the pieces of legislation I would propose when I get to the Senate, is to eliminate these tax credits that are funding this project. And once the tax credits are gone, the whole project will collapse because there's no financial incentive to proceed with it. But the reason I tell that story is because there has never been a better example in the history of our state of wealthy individuals, mega donors, interest groups, corporate America, commandeering the legislative process, frustrating the will of the overwhelming majority of the people in order to become billionaires and to fund the campaigns of the elected officials who are allowing this whole thing to happen. And there's countless other examples. We know that 87% roughly of Americans want members of Congress to have term limits. We know that 78% of Americans want the role of money in our elections to be reduced or eliminated. The true divide in America is not between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans and Democrats actually agree on a lot of things like term limits and overturning Citizens United and stopping this pipeline. The problem is that wealthy interest groups are aligned against the people, and they have successfully taken over our legislative process.
And you answered my next question about eminent domain there, so I appreciate you answering that question there too. Just since we're running tight on time here, so I want to just kind of try and wrap up this interview and kind of leave, Iowans with a final message from you. I guess to wrap it up, can you just tell me a little bit more about, what your campaign looks like over the next couple of months and your message for Iowans as we head into November?
Yeah, so, we're less than 100 days away from the election. I will be on the ballot this November. Iowans have a real choice this year. It's not just a campaign between a Republican and a Democrat. I'm not running against the Republican candidate, Ashley Hinson. I'm not running against the Democratic candidate, Josh Turek. I'm running against the two-party system itself. And until we overturn the two-party system, our constitutional republic will remain in jeopardy. So it's time to join together. We know that 63% of Americans would prefer to vote for a third-party candidate. We, the disaffected, are the majority. If you add together independents, third-party voters, disaffected Republicans, disaffected Democrats, we are the majority in the state of Iowa. I offer the people of Iowa a true alternative. We can overcome this broken, corrupt two-party system and restore power to the people of this state.
All right, Thomas Laehn, Libertarian candidate for US Senate. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.